Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the first week of October 2019. And we do have a lot of news today, and it does have a lot of common theme. First thing is, of course, the stories that are on every moment about the possible issues with President Trump and being removed from office and so on. But President Obama, his Vice President Biden, and Biden's son, Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, Mullah, the Modestas, the IMF, and all others have all pillaged Ukraine and even have delayed loans to the country when the Democrats were in power, forcing the Ukrainians to pay grossly inflated natural gas prices. And now they are accusing President Trump of using Ukraine for other reasons. Of course, what the Democrats did, especially Obama and Biden, effectively made the Ukrainians pay an extra 50% of a price hike on their natural domestic gas. And it was back then, in 2014, that Hunter Biden was placed on Burisma, which is the oil company of Ukraine. And according to this information, they forced the removal of the president of Ukraine, who was disagreeing with their need to be in charge of everything. Hunter Biden was appointed to the board of directors for Burisma, which is the largest natural gas company in Ukraine. And then Vice President Biden traveled to Ukraine and offered support and $50 million in aid for the new shaky government of Ukraine that they had now installed. And as a result of this, Biden's got a place on the board of one of the largest natural gas companies in Ukraine. The Clintons received millions from Ukrainian oligarch, and the IMF got billions in loans with Ukraine, and the people of Ukraine are burdened with excessive natural gas prices and repaying the IMF loans. And this is, of course, a very typical rape of a weak nation. And according to a photo obtained by Fox News' Tucker Carlson, it shows former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter golfing in the Hamptons with Devon Archer, who served on the board of the Ukrainian natural gas company Burisma Holdings. And of course, this is after Joe Biden said in Iowa that he never discussed his son's foreign business with dealings or meet with these people. So, of course, shows that Biden is a liar. And on top of all of this, a high-ranking Chinese businessman was charged by the Justice Department with global corruption and bribery in 2017. And the first call he made after his arrest was to Vice President Biden's brother, James Biden, who thinks the call was meant for Joe's son, Hunter. This Chinese guy, Patrick Ho, I like that name, the lieutenant to the founder of the multi-billion-dollar Chinese conglomerate CEFC, which is China Energy, was indicted under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in the Southern District of New York for his role in a global money laundering and bribery scheme aimed at government officials in Africa. We know that the Chinese were always interested in using African resources and using the African nations. The Justice Department also accused Ho of helping with Iranian sanctions, of evasions, and working to use a Chinese company's connections to sell weaponry to Chad, Libya, and Qatar. Ho immediately tried reaching out to the younger Biden for help because that summer, which was 2017, Hunter agreed to represent Ho as part of the efforts to work out a liquefied natural gas deal worth tens of millions of dollars with China energy leader Ye Jianming. Hunter Biden's global business dealings enabled him to get a controversial $50,000 per month position. I would like to
Per month?
Per month position.
Wow.
With the Ukrainian energy company Burisma Holdings.
I don't think Joe Biden knows anything about that.
No, it's a big secret, and no reporters are allowed to ask those questions. But Kathleen Biden, who was Hunter's now ex-wife, and we know that he cheated with his dead brother's wife and dumped his wife, Kathleen Biden, the ex-wife, accused him in divorce filings of spending extravagantly on his own interests, including drugs, alcohol, prostitutes, strip clubs, and gifts for women with whom he had sexual relationships.
Sounds like a nice guy.
Really nice guy. While leaving the family with no funds to pay their own legitimate bills. The filing also discusses a large diamond worth $80,000 he claimed that he no longer had. And in a later interview, Hunter said the diamond was only worth $10,000 and it was a gift from Ye. Now, Hunter Biden says he met Ye for the first time in Miami and that two of Biden's associates surprised him when they gave Ye scotch valued at thousands of dollars. I didn't know scotch could be worth $1,000. Ye sent a thank you note and a 2.8 carat diamond to Hunter's hotel room.
I wish somebody would send me a thank you note with a 2.8 carat diamond to my hotel room.
Well, then you would be a hoe. Hunter says he handed the diamond off to his associates. Right. Oh, here, take this almost 3 carat diamond, please. Just take it from me. And doesn't know what happened to it. And he denies it was meant as a bribe. Seriously? Are you going to vote for his father?
This is like a soap opera.
So Hunter is also a freaking liar. And speaking of liars, Democrat Representative Adam Schiff, or as I like to say,
Shift.
with a T,
Shift.
is connected to a Ukrainian arms. What is it with Ukraine going on here? Adam Schiff is arguably the biggest liar in Congress ever. He now leads the House Intelligence Committee. That's a joke.
I was going to say, that's scary.
That's pretty scary. That tells you how intelligent it is. And oversaw the Intel Committee where he attempted to align President Trump with some trumped-up allegations concerning his phone call with the president of Ukraine. Schiff lied in his opening remarks and claimed numerous falsehoods about the president's call, in spite of the transcript being provided the day before. So unless something massive surfaces, President Trump will be exonerated again from another Democrat media tissue of lies. The Mueller narrative was a fraud. The Kavanaugh narrative was a fraud. The Scotland resort narrative was a fraud. The second Kavanaugh narrative was a fraud. And who knows how many FISA applications of the Democrats were frauds. And now this Ukraine whistleblower controversy is, guess what?
A fraud.
A fraud. Nothing sticks to Trump. And he's been through and survived all scrutiny. It could turn out to be the whistleblower doesn't actually exist. And instead of just a group of jaded deep state intel hacks, the whistleblower maybe fabricated or fraudulent information was used to induce the action. But here's something that President Obama did. On October 18, 2000, they made a treaty with Ukraine on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters, which was ratified by the U.S. Senate. So reading it says that either country is allowed to call on the other one for assistance using testimony of statements, providing documents, records, search and seizures, all these things is now was a law. So even if Trump did ask the president of Ukraine for help, it was legally okay.
Since 2000.
For the last 19 years. So, please. Can you believe that there's another Ukraine story? It's like everything is about Ukraine.
I know. I told about the Ukrainian dwarf last time. And she disappeared.
Well, maybe someone did dwarf tossing.
I don't know.
Tossed her into the Black Sea. Tens of thousands of Jews from around the world have arrived in Uman, Ukraine, to spend the New Year Rosh Hashanah there at the tomb of a spiritual leader named Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. The pilgrimage has been an annual tradition since the rabbi's death in 1810, so over 200 years. The rabbi went to Uman because a fire destroyed his home in Bratslav, which is just west of Uman, and he was only 30 years old. He spent the last year of his life there in a Jewish community who provided him with housing as he suffered from tuberculosis. And apparently he gave very good sermons and gave very hopeful things and was considered like a prophet. And so following the rabbi's death, every Rosh Hashanah there's an annual pilgrimage instituted to his gravesite even during communist times. That was interesting. So today, Jews from all walks of life, including Hasidic Jews from Israel and elsewhere, traveled to this little town. It's only 83,000 people in central Ukraine, and they expect 50 to 70,000 visitors of Jews to visit there. And in light of this massive pilgrimage, this is now Ukraine, in English, Ukraine, several dozen Israeli police officers will be helping Ukrainian law enforcement to keep order during the holidays. So what's going on with Ukraine? And this week we have also, I haven't got the news story, but a Ukrainian plane crashed on its approach to an airport in Ukraine. It was coming from Spain with mysterious crew and a mysterious passenger. We don't know who it is. Now, remember I told you that President Trump is removing the pedophiles. That's what Jeffrey Epstein was about, and so on. Well, now 300 men and boys are freed from a house of torture in an Islamic boarding school where they were chained up, raped by staff, and starved in the name of teaching them the Quran in Nigeria. Police raided the Quranic school in Kaduna after an anonymous tip-off. Yeah, it's from the president's office.
Yeah, because I was say, like in Nigeria, 400 people like that, and people wouldn't know.
The owner of the school and 6 staff have been arrested for slavery. The men and boys emerged with chains on their feet and horrific scars. And the Kaduna State Police said they found 100 students in chains. They said it's a case of human slavery and a house of torture, with the men and the boys coming from the countries of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria, and other African countries around there. The victims, including adults and minors, are kept in the most debasing and inhuman conditions in the name of teaching them Quran, Islam, okay, and reforming them through rape and torture. The school has been operating for a decade, enrolling students brought by their families to learn the Quran and be rehabilitated from drug abuse and other illnesses. It's another fake Islamic cover for slavery and abuse, and this is only the beginning of the raids that will happen globally. Speaking of falsehoods, guess what you don't have to cut out of your diet anymore? You don't need to cut out red meat.
It's not a problem for me.
Scientists
They didn't cut it out anyway.
Yeah, because scientists say official advice on eating less beef, pork, lamb is based on bad evidence, and having it 4 times a week poses no cancer risk. Well, we do a lot more than 4 times.
And we knew that.
Researchers from Canada, Spain, and Poland issued the contradictory advice. Red and processed meats are officially classified as probably cancer-causing. But the scientists said past research has been too low quality to direct people, and they found no evidence that eating beef, pork, or lamb could increase the risk of heart disease, cancer, stroke, or type 2 diabetes. So we can now have a barbecue.
Well, we did anyway. Didn't stop us.
And speaking of another story, which is very strange, I don't even know why I'm reporting on it, but alien hunters led by Blink 182. I have never heard of them. There is some kind of music group. The head singer said he found exotic material that's the debris from a spacecraft. After the group revealed a video featuring UFOs that the UFOs have reluctantly revealed as confirmed as real. The Navy has. So it says to the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, which was co-founded by Blink 182 lead singer Tom DeLonge. He claims it's found material from an alien spaceship, but they don't say from where. The group already has unearthed real UFO footage recorded by U.S. pilots whose authenticity was verified by military officials last week. The structure and composition of these materials are not from any known existing military or commercial application. And DeLonge says, we have been able to establish that the material shows highly advanced anomalous engineering capabilities. NASA did not immediately respond to the comments and probably never will. So, and I don't know if you had this, there was a film from North Carolina about a fleet of UFOs over the ocean.
I didn't report on it, but I saw it.
And the military said they're actually investigating that.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I hadn't heard
Now,
that part.
a story that I reported on 15 years ago. Now it's come back. Artificial blood, maybe I said one of my books even, was made in a laboratory that could be transfused into any patient.
We've talked about that for years.
Regardless of their blood type. Now this is a new story. They said it's difficult to stock sufficient amount of blood for transfusions. The artificial blood will be able to save lives they can't ordinarily save. to treat as quickly as possible. Hospitals are forced to have large volumes of different blood types on hand. To overcome this, scientists created blood, and they put it in quotes like it's not really blood, where platelets and red blood cells are stored in microscopic sacs called liposomes within the liquid, and can be stored at normal temperatures for more than a year. Well, again, I reported on artificial blood over 15 years ago, which at the time I said was self-replicating. So if they inject this into you, it replicates itself and replaces your own blood type. And as we know, most people do not know their own blood type and will not be told. The doctors don't tell you. Why do you want to know?
And this is why.
More fake falsehoods and liars. Climate alarmists Michael Mann and Catherine Hayhoe, another hoe, have been caught using dubious revisionist temperature data in their attempt, as one ClimateGate email author put it, to deal a mortal blow to the extensively documented medieval warm period. Now, scientifically, it's been established that a global warming event occurred in 900 AD through 1200 AD, and the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change first assessment report presented the history and graphic documents of this, which said it brought temperatures at least as warm as today in that 300-year period. Now, a warming climate of the medieval warm period created abundant crops, fewer droughts and floods, growing human population, and improved living standards. And then, guess what happened? A little ice age terminated the medieval warming period and brought devastating weather extremes, crop failures, famines, Black Death, blah, 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 all that happened. And so these people want to eliminate the medieval warm period to show that that's a new thing now. So that global warming is a new thing now. See, that's what they want to show. And it says that, according to this email that was leaked, he said, we have to get rid of the medieval warm period so they can be more proof of this is global warming hoax. Now, quickly, just what's going on. I warned everyone about the New Madrid fault line. The area of southeast Madrid, Missouri, experienced 5 earthquakes in less than an hour this past week. The New Madrid fault line is coming to life. It's in the New Madrid seismic zone. Quakes along the fault have been felt across the South and Midwest, in Alabama, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, Tennessee, and of course we felt it here as well. The zone is responsible for North America's most intense earthquakes, ranging from 7 to 8 on the Richter scale. Actually, it was closer to 9. And it caused the Mississippi River to run backwards in the early 1800s. So get ready for the next one.
Maybe we have to learn to run backwards.
Well, Florida. I don't know how many times I got to warn you. In Central Florida, several lakes in the area are overflowing onto adjacent property. At least 3 residences have been forced out of their home due to the flooding, and nobody knows why the water is rising. And these are not designated flood zones. Why is it rising? Because Florida is sinking. And I warned you about this 2 decades ago.
It's upsetting Jade.
And look, I don't want to hear about Jade and Jasmine. They're very naughty. They ate through my screen room. They ate the wood. They're just destructos.
Yeah, that's what dogs do.
I'm very angry. They will soon go to a Vietnamese restaurant.
No, they won't. And that's what dogs are. So I have a lot of news. I'm going to try and go through mine.
Hurry up.
Yeah, because I have a lot of things to tell you. So first of all, of course, one of your favorite people, Representative Rashida Tlaib.
No, rash idea.
Tells the Detroit police chief, who is black, to hire only black analysts to run facial recognition software because non-African Americans think all African Americans look the same, according to her.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
How she got in office is a mystery.
So the Detroit police chief, James Craig, said, I trust people who are trained regardless of race.
Yes. So did she call her stupid B?
No, but she couldn't pull that one over on our people here in Detroit. And then now this was a new one on me. This is a new, what I would call a new hate sign by the Anti-Defamation League.
What?
It is the OK sign.
No, but that's been on for a long time now.
Because they say that this is a W and this is P for white
Ridiculous.
power.
We've been using OK for since I'm 2 years old.
For a long time. So this came to my attention because Apparently, a black woman took her family to Universal Studios where they had a picture with the movie character Gru, and they claimed that he made this white okay sign on her shoulder.
Ridiculous.
What was interesting was her little boy, for some reason, was making the same sign, and he's black, and he was like 7. Maybe not even that.
Oh, he must be punished.
So the Universal Studios claimed that they fired this person over
for God's sake.
over the deal.
I would sue that Universal Studios for that.
So I looked on the Anti-Defamation League website, and they said that the OK sign was used, as far as they can trace, back to the 17th century Great Britain.
Right.
It means understanding, consent, approval, well-being.
Exactly.
It's also used in Hindu and Buddhist worlds where they do this for their mudras.
So let's put all billion Hindus in jail too.
Yeah. So now, and also in the American Sign Language, I guess they're going to have to change that now. And apparently in 2017 it started to move over because of some hoax that was put out. But then the white people, supremacists, started to... He doesn't like it either, and he's white.
Because he's white.
And they adopted this. They adopted this sign and started, making it show up. So now the Anti-Defamation League says if you show this sign, that means white power and you're supremacist, and it's a hate sign. So
that's so ridiculous. And
that's ridiculous.
When I was working with handicapped people, if you go, this means a-hole.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. And not only that, but think of what they do this all the time, and what is it? This.
Oh, you know what?
The singers
It just means okay, all right?
Or somebody's watching.
Okay.
Somebody's watching you. Who knows? But anyway, it's just like ridiculous.
And you're
things
part
going
black,
on.
and you use it.
Yeah. And I'm not racist because I have every race inside of me. Then that made me not be racist against myself, and I can't do that. So then, now this is a story I figured you would like. Do you know that there are some researchers, whoever these researchers are, that they're claiming that nearly half of all flights are deemed to be unimportant and pointless by people taking them. And there's a new trend to condemn and shame people who fly regularly.
What?
And they're using the term flight scum.
Oh,
these
are morons.
Yeah, this is on the back of the Extinction Rebellion protest, which is ridiculous.
Don't tell me Greta's a part of this.
Greta Thunberg's condemnation of the world leaders and the frivolous spending of private jets of high-profile figures.
Yeah, I want to see how Greta is going to get home.
And speaking of Greta, this was a very interesting article that was on the AmericanThinker.com site that said that Greta Thunberg's speech to the UN strangely resembles a 1992 UN speech by 12-year-old Severin Kula Suzuki.
The heck is that?
That's the name of a girl. I listened to it. She addressed them in 1992 at the UN Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, and they titled this YouTube video "The Girl Who Silenced the World for 5 Minutes," and this video has almost 32 million views. And I urge you to watch it because it's very, very similar to what Greta did.
I regret that you watched it.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's just how they replay these same themes over to keep you in fear. Because this girl said the same thing. Basically, she did, but for her time period. So listen to that one. And then, the Church of Sweden has proclaimed Greta Thunberg as successor to Jesus Christ in a 2018 tweet.
That's the end. Sweden is gone.
It
doesn't exist anymore.
Quote, announcement, Jesus of Nazareth has now appointed one of his successors, Greta Thunberg. It said...
a mentally ill little girl is his successor.
It's, let's see if I don't know, because we're kind of want to get through this. We have a lot of things. But anyway, so it says some Swedish Twitter users were amused by the tweet and some Christians found it offensive.
I think so.
So shortly after that, the account was abandoned with a sign-off message that defended the original celebration of Thunberg and suggested everyone has a right to interpret Jesus in their own way. And speaking of Sweden, Sweden is now proposing dropping ancient history from their school curriculum in favor of gender roles and postmodernism.
Oh my goodness.
Anna Westerholm, the Swedish National Agency for Education's curriculum department head, said that the history of ancient civilizations from prehistoric times to around 1700 is going to be absent in the proposed new curriculum in favor of the focus on more modern history and social sciences, because she said tight class schedules leave no time for it. So this idea obviously has upset the people who are the real educators in Sweden. And one of the history professors called the idea bizarre and baffling. A literature critic called it crazy and warned it would deprive students of a connection to their heritage. If you have no knowledge of the ancient, you can have no respect for the future either, said one social science and ancient culture scholar. She called the new proposal absurd. And the former Minister of Education, Jan Björklund, tweeted, "To erase antiquity from history teaching, unfortunate. The same proposal came when I was minister, but I stopped it." So this is what's going on in our world. They're changing history in front of you and taking it away from your children. Okay, now it's interesting that Greta Thunberg was proclaimed the successor to Jesus Christ, because New World Religion, as you know, is going to come at people from every direction. And I told you back last September that Kanye West, we haven't talked about him in a while, changed his name to Ye, Y-E. And if you remember, he tweeted back at that time, the being, formerly known as Kanye West, I am Ye, Y-E. So that was his nickname apparently for some time.
That's the name of the Chinese guy involved with Biden.
I know, I was thinking about that. And he used that moniker as the title for his 8th album. And he went on to say that the word Ye has religious significance for him. I believe ye is the most commonly used word in the Bible, and in the Bible it means you. So I'm you, I'm us, it's us. It went from Kanye, which means the only one, to just ye, just being a reflection of our good, our bad, our confused, and everything. The album is more of a reflection of who we are. Now the reason I'm bringing this up is because you may have heard the announcement that Kanye West is quitting secular music and he's only now going to make gospel music.
Okay.
He made this comment last week at a listening party in Chicago for his new album called Jesus is King, a Kanye West Experience. Now also, he's been having church services. Have you heard about that?
So he's come to Jesus.
New World Religion, Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, Jesus and Mary.
Me.
So, anyway, he's been having church services, the last one at the Greater Allen AME Cathedral in Queens, New York. And apparently he drove away regular churchgoers because the non-regular churchgoers wanted to come in and see him, obviously. So, the spectacle, according to one observer, kicked off the arrival of Kim Kardashian West, who came in donning a white tank top without a bra and khaki pants.
That's very religious.
Yeah, and then they said that there were select scriptures that were read that's been provided in order to keep them in line. So the service had the feel of slaves worshiping on a southern plantation, they said. Preacher Adam Tyson came across like an antebellum preacher using his overseer to keep the rest of the slaves blindly obedient. Now, West's newfound divinity has proven to be widely profitable for him, surprise, surprise, as he monetizes his faith with a line of Sunday service merchandise that his acolytes are eager to snap up. So rather than uplifting, his take on religion was based on loving and following Jesus blindly, as many slaves were taught to do, to remain subservient and obedient to their masters. Now, he has a new album coming out, and also a film about his recent awakening, and both are titled Jesus is King. The film is due out October 25, and some Christians have taken to social media to criticize the album, calling West a self-proclaimed God and implying his faith is being weaponized for album sales.
You think?
So, very interesting. And, of course, I've been keeping you apprised of all the things that are going on in the abortion issue. Well, Planned Parenthood is very sneaky. They are set to open an 18,000 square foot mega clinic in Fairview Heights, Illinois, 13 miles away from Missouri's last abortion clinic in St. Louis and close to the borders of several states with strict abortion laws. Now, they claim 11,000 are expected to be treated there, which means 11,000 murders, right? Dr. Colleen McNichols, who's the chief medical officer of Planned Parenthood of the St. Louis region and Southwest Missouri, said that the clinic was built in secret, an 18,000 square
keep that hidden, right?
Yeah, to avoid protest or construction delays. So they used the code name Alaska.
So guess what?
What?
That's very close to the New Madrid fault line.
Yes, that's true. So anyway, apparently other Planned Parenthood construction projects have been stonewalled when the communities learn what's actually going on there. For example, in one clinic, a communications company refused to install telephone lines and an internet service. Another one, a cabinet maker took an order but then refused to deliver it. So anyway, Planned Parenthood is sneaky. And now this was interesting, this next article. This is about programming triggers, and I'm going to just show you this book if you haven't read it yet, 13 Cubed Case Studies in Mind Control and Programming, because we teach you how to see what's going on in your world. A British theater company now issues trigger warnings to prevent audience distress at its more risque performances to avoid upsetting audience members. And last year, London's National Theatre received complaints, our dogs, sorry about that, after audience members fainted during performances of Cleanse, a play about love and cruelty that includes scenes of rape, mutilation, and torture by electrocution. In 2014, the Globe's version of Titus Andronicus left crowds outraged at the grotesquely violent production, with people reportedly walking out and feeling sick. So now, the royal court's trigger warnings are nothing new, they're saying, and that it is not uncommon for shows to carry warnings and suggested ages. That part's true, but now they're actually calling them triggers, which I think is very interesting. So calls have grown in recent weeks for the movie, which is called The Split, James McAvoy's latest film, to carry a trigger warning. And then there is an art show of 200-year-old paintings at the Tate Britain, which is an art museum, by the artist William Blake, 300 original prints, and it has carrying a trigger warning. It says the art of William Blake contains strong and sometimes challenging imagery, including some depictions of violence and suffering, and the placard advises distressed art lovers to seek out museum staff if they require further coddling. Now, how ridiculous is this? So anyway, it goes on, but you want to read these things. It's just amazing that the University of Glasgow as well introduced trigger warnings for its theology course over fears students may be traumatized while learning about the crucifixion of who? Jesus. Again, Jesus is all in the news. So think about what's going on here, people. Trigger, trigger, trigger. Brown X that out. Now, next one. Melinda Gates has pledged $1 billion to promoting gender equality in America in the next 10 years. She said it's frustrating, even heartbreaking, to confront evidence of the many ways our country continues to hold women back, and she outlines three, I'm going to tell you about the number three priorities to focus on. Now, I'm not going to go through the priorities because my point with this story is what about poverty and hunger and shelter and homeless people?
First of all, she's only giving $1 billion because her tax person said, you're going to pay a lot of taxes if you don't donate some money.
So she's donating money and it's going through her thing. She can donate to poverty, health, and other things that actually are going to do some good rather than this stupid gender equality thing that's going on right now. And speaking of stupidity, this is basic stupidity. I'm going to tell you a couple stories because they're kind of a prelude to the main story. So the first story is about a UK transgender charity that's instructing teachers on puberty blockers to 12-year-old kids. They're telling the teachers that these puberty blockers are harmless and should be given to children as young as 12, and what they're calling model training sessions for UK schools, because once they kind of get their act together, so to speak, then they're going to go all through the UK with these training sessions, telling these teachers what to do. They're telling them that giving them these blockers is okay because the treatment is completely reversible and gives them immense relief. Now, this is a training...
From what?
From, I'll tell you what it says in a minute. But it's a lobby group called Mermaid. So this is now the name of this group. I don't know about the mermen, but it sounds kind of, like... not gender supportive, whatever. But anyway, it goes on to say that puberty blocker medication doesn't make any changes. It puts a button on the pituitary gland and freezes puberty where it is, and the biological processes will recommence as soon as the treatment is stopped. A pastoral support worker said he was concerned that the group is literally encouraging young children to believe they were born in the wrong body and putting children at risk. And then his concerns were shared by an associate professor in sociology that says such a strategy pushes children toward further medical intervention up to sex affirmation surgery, a reassignment, or basically sex change surgery.
So basically, it's an insult to God to say, oh, God made a mistake and put you in the wrong body.
Apparently. The American College of Pediatrics,
because God doesn't know what he's doing,
noted that healthcare professionals are increasingly prohibited from investigating psychosocial factors that are forcing children and adolescents to question their gender identity. And then it says that a London clinic for transgender children reported that a third of their patients had moderate or severe autistic traits. Yet instead of paying attention to the psychological side, many schools still opt for going ahead with gender-affirming actions. And this is the second story before I get to the main story. The next story is about in Australia. The Australian Psychological Society made the claim in an unpublished submission that transgender children should undergo irreversible surgery without their parents' permission or counseling, because they say pre-surgery counseling is an unnecessary burden. Okay, this is for children. Now, those are my two preliminary stories leading up to this story, which actually was put out by the FDA right here in the US, which I was kind of shocked that they put it out. But they said that puberty-blocking drugs lead to more than 6,000 deaths. Mm-hmm. It says...
It's like plugging up the pipe.
Because, it lays it out here in a simple way to understand. It said that between 2013 and 2019, there were reported over 41,000 adverse events, including over 6,000 deaths and over 25,000 serious reactions in patients who took the hormone blocker known as Lupron. It's being used without formal FDA approval as a puberty blocker on an increasing number of children and adolescents. In 2017, AbbVie, I don't know how you say that, but a drug company which produces Lupron, said the sales of the drug were $669 million in the U.S. alone. And that's telling you why they're giving these blockers to these children. It's an off-label drug. It's used for off-label purposes. There are no long-term studies. And it says it does cause irreversible loss of fertility. It does not turn a male child into a female child, only a eunuch who will lose his full potential for growth and strength. Mm-hmm. Children have no capacity to comprehend these long-term consequences, so the use of this drug in gender-confused children constitutes unethical experimentation, and informed consent is not possible, it says. It's being used on transgender children in the U.S. and Great Britain with the support of the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Endocrine Society, despite the fact that there's no evidence that such hormonal treatments benefit children and adolescents with gender dysphoria. It leads to malignant tumors, cardiovascular events such as heart attacks and blood clots, suicidal behavior, psychological disorders, brittle bones, painful joints, and sterility. This is what you're giving your children, people. It's a terrible thing. Big pharma, big hospital systems, surgical centers, and doctors will profit. Monthly, Lupron costs $775 alone. That's $27,000 if they start at age 5. It goes on to talk about that puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones are injected into children. An endocrine condition will develop. And it's claimed by the medical people who are promoting it that it gives them a chance to find out who they really are. It just stops it, but it doesn't. It changes them for a lifetime because there's no long-term treatment on this. And they're asking that the Surgeon General step in and help get this straightened around here in the U.S. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Terrible child abuse. And a Virginia teacher was fired after refusing to use male pronouns for a ninth grader transgender. He's standing up for his freedom of speech, and he's claiming it violated his religious rights and freedom of speech, and that he's being persecuted not for what he said, but for what he didn't say, which was he didn't want to call the child a different pronoun than what the child was born with. So he called by the whatever name they wanted to, but he refused to say the he, him, her, they stuff. He said this is not tolerance, that is coercion, and added that his job was put in peril for having views held by most of the world for most of human history. And in Tennessee, a 5-year-old boy is now being branded as a sex offender. He has autism, and he hugged and kissed another child on the cheek and was told by the school that it would be put in his file for the rest of his school days that he was a sexual predator. And the grandmother says on her Facebook post, "What do you do when a 5-year-old child is being labeled a sexual predator and accused of sexual harassment by the school system? It was disclosed that it will go on his record for the rest of his life that he's a sexual offender. The child is autistic, he comprehends and functions very different. What do you do?" Even the child's doctor has tried to explain the child's difficulties to the school, and she says the kid doesn't even understand what sex is.
But Joe Biden can hug and kiss people indiscriminately, and he can run for president.
It's ridiculous. And speaking of the Ukraine, dark tourism. Chernobyl now it has its control room open to visitors. Now, in the control room, the radiation is 40,000 times the norm. So they're going to allow tourists to put on hazmat suits and stay in this room for 5 minutes, and then after they leave, then they'll be subjected to 2 radiology tests to measure exposure. So to me, it sounds like you're a willing participant in a horrible, dark experiment.
Well, you have to be stupid to go in there anyway.
The move is part of a government drive to encourage tourism in the area after President Zelensky signed in July a decree designating Chernobyl an official tourist attraction. And dark tourism, I'd never heard that term before, have you?
Maybe.
So it was coined in the 90s by scholars exploring why tourists visited sites associated with things like the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Now there's even a darktourism.com site, and people want to go see these macabre things. So why you want to go to these dark energy places? Just because you can? I don't know. And a little bit lighter, so to speak, anti-gravity off Earth. There is a company that it believes that it's going to be the first company to put a first ever hotel in space, the Von Braun Station, named after Werner von Braun. They want this to have 100 people on board by 2025, and that's our dogs playing with their bones. The majority of the station will initially have about a 1/6 of Earth's gravity and other parts with near zero gravity. So eventually they want to offer excursions in true spaceships out to other stations or the moon. But right now, long-term habitation of space and microgravity is not sustainable. So they want to be the first space station to have artificial gravity, allowing a permanent culture of people living and working in Earth's orbit. So we'll see what happens with that. And then there was a U.S. physicist who says that it's possible that Earth is being watched by other alien type of beings on extraterrestrial spy probes that are actually located on nearby asteroids, and he thinks that that ought to be investigated. And NASA, Jim Green says he says humans aren't ready to accept if there's life on Mars, because he's afraid that if the Mars rover finds life in the 2020 rover expedition, that people will be like disturbed about it and will not be able to handle it.
And who is he to decide what everyone is able to accept or not?
So in 1953, the CIA actually recommended the creation of the Robertson Panel after an investigation of various UFO cases led it to worry that the public focus on alien life might lead to hysterical mass behavior. Then they established the Interplanetary Initiative at Arizona State University, who's working on figuring out what to do, that when they introduce this to humans, what's going to happen. So they're working on that. And then I think people have been reading our book because a lot of readers sent me this story about babies in the womb having extra lizard-like muscles in their hands that they lose before they're born. So you want to read about reptilians and aliens, try Blue Blood, True Blood. Great book, one of our bestsellers. They say that these are probably the oldest remnants of evolution seen in humans yet. It's a relic from when reptiles transitioned to mammals. No, that's crazy.
They didn't.
No adult mammal, no rat, no dog has those muscles. But what else are we missing? What else will we find? They have kind of all these new tests. So what else will they reveal to you? We will find out. And scientists have invented a device that can quickly produce large numbers of living entities that resemble very primitive human embryos. So right now they can experiment on any embryos that are human that are over 14 days old. So this is going to give them something that they're calling synthetic human life that they can experiment on. And they're calling it the Holy Grail of human embryology. And speaking of aliens, did you know in New York City now that if you call someone an illegal alien, you can be fined up to $250,000. And they're defining an alien as any person not a citizen or national of the U.S. And if they don't speak English properly, you also can be fined if you make fun of them. And you probably read about Prince Harry launching high court action against the Sun and the Mirror over claims that his voicemail messages were hacked. Well, the reason I'm telling you this story is twofold. First of all, comes just days after Harry launched an attack on the press about Meghan, and his deepest fear is history repeating itself. I lost my mother, and now I watch my wife falling victim to the same powerful forces. When they got married, you may remember I told you that she was given the ring that belonged to Princess Diana, and they called her Princess Di. And I said to her, I wonder if history's going to repeat itself. I reported that, and now he's talking the same thing. Is it highly possible they're setting her up to fall in the same way they did Diana?
Well, she's really a he anyway.
Well, we're going to find out. Sooner or later, it will reveal itself. Now, The Hunger Games, I've spoken to you about that trilogy. There's your number 3, your trilogy. Some time back when that was out, and in my opinion, how horrible it is. It disappeared for a long time. Now, guess what? It's got a new prequel out called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And they're calling it the trilogy was a bestseller. It says that it was translated into more than 50 languages, sold over 100 million copies, and it was a horrible, horrible story, which I read, about how their post-apocalyptic series set in North American country with one wealthy capital, 12 impoverished states, that's your number 13, and each year one child from each district is selected at random to participate in the Hunger Games, where each tribute fights to the death. So this has long been talked about in things that go on with the Illuminati. So here we have it again, and I think it's a terrible series, but they're going to push it. They were requiring it in schools for 5th graders. And I saw the first movie, which was just horrible. So don't watch it. And don't promote it. And then we've also been talking to you about demonic possession. Well, the reason I'm talking about this story, because we have talked about the things that are going on in the news. It's not human. Humans don't do these things to each other. We don't kill our babies, and we don't kill each other, and we don't torture each other just because we can. That's demonic stuff going on. Well, Chris Watts, who murdered his wife and 2 daughters last August in Frederick, Colorado, and is in prison now for life, claimed that he felt darkness on him for weeks before murdering his wife and his 2 daughters. And he's gave his story to a journalist, which personally I don't believe that it belongs in a book. I think it should be destroyed. But it was interesting when I read the interview that he has introduced the idea that he may have been possessed by demons or evil spirits because the darkness before the murders put thoughts into his head. And then he also talked about how he felt God gave him 3 chances to pull away from his mistress, but he didn't listen to any of those voices, and he claims he's not mentally ill. But again, I'm telling you, this is demonic, evil stuff that's going on in the world, and it is a fight. It is a spiritual war, as we have talked about before. And Saudi Arabia will now allow foreign men and women to share hotel rooms because they also want to improve their tourism, just like the Ukraine, apparently. And originally, if you were a tourist in Saudi Arabia, you had to prove you were married to stay in the same hotel room or related with a family member. But now they're saying it's not going to be required of foreign tourists. And they also recently decreed that visitors need not wear all-covering black robes, but should dress modestly. Alcohol, of course, remains banned. And recently, as you remember, they did allow women to drive. So that was a huge thing. It was last August, I believe. And authorities are aiming for 100 million annual visits by 2030. And of course, they still cannot visit Mecca unless you are Islamic.
They're not going to get those. They're not going to get those.
I don't think so, but that's what they're claiming. And of course, I have the 3s, just a couple of them because there's so many. But this one was particularly interesting because it was a gunman who shot dead a female airman and another man in a Wyoming park before turning the weapon upon himself in a double murder suicide as police probe personal relationships between the trio. 3. That was interesting as well on this one. Let's see. 15. Okay. Is that it was 3 miles from F.E. Warren Air Force Base, and the base is one of 3 strategic intercontinental ballistic missile sites. And gun owners in California with previous drunk driving convictions are nearly 3 times more likely to commit violent crimes. And this one was interesting because this is a word you don't hear anymore, trebled. Rape and sex assault complaints at universities have trebled in just 3 years. And then in Longview, Washington State, children were taking on a wild school bus ride as their drunk school driver bus jumps through 3 red lights, shouting, "I'm so crazy, I'm totally crazy." Terrible things going on. And the National Academy of Sciences, my last story, came under fire after posting a video about gene editing and designer babies, which it later took down and apologized for, but in my opinion, it's a way to see how the public will react to it. So the video said, do you dream of being stronger, smarter, having a top student or star athlete, a child free of inheritable diseases? Can human gene editing make this more impossible? Then they showed emojis of brain, bulging muscles, a professor, an athlete, and then after they deleted the post, they apologized for that because they said they're only going to use it for purposes of preventing disease. And then later on it goes on and talks about all the things that was included in this if you wanted to read more about it. But it's crazy, crazy stuff that's going on in our world, right?
Okay, we got moving along really fast. Okay, the webinars are starting soon.
Next week.
Okay.
Sign up if you haven't. Our 2 new books. We're sold out of our first printing. The second printing is underway and is due to arrive here within the next 2
I'm
weeks.
working on the 3rd book in that series, the January class.
It's starting to fill. So, I'd say maybe half there. If you want a spot, you've got to reserve it because then it's gone, it's gone.
Monday, October 7th is my webinar with the Dr. Carlos Jaramillo in Quito. That is on, I believe, on the Expansions website and is also on hiperespacio.org.
And that is in English and Spanish.
Yes. And then for those of you who have a lot of money that you don't want to save or hold on to, the Jordanian media people and for the Jordanian Peace Project, we need about $30,000 to complete the project. So if you are willing to donate a substantial amount of money, please contact customer support at expansions.com.
Like, comment, subscribe, and share. You can see what happens to our YouTube videos. They're immediately marked as limited audiences. We need you to also get a membership on our site. Again, a reminder, no comments. People will say, okay, just comment about that. We get on Facebook, we get on YouTube, we get it all over the place. We have a Q&A blog on our website.
I'm not commenting on Facebook, I'm not commenting on YouTube, only on the website.
That's right. Less than $1 a day, you can do it. If you're interested enough to ask the question, then give us some support because just like you, we all have bills to pay. So we appreciate your support. Expansions.com. So thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.